Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review a movie called Clean. Right now, this movie is in early access because it's very early for this film to even be a thing in our lives. So, if people are looking at the price of this movie and going like, ooh, I don't know anything about this movie, should I go on and want to pay to see this film? Should I dare not waste my time? Yada, yada, yada. So, I can go and give people a very free option to see this film so that way you can go and still contemplate after I am to go and describe this movie to you and tell you about this film, whether or not you'd be at more interest in the movie called Clean. So we have Clean kind of feeling like a double kind of word here, where it kind of feels like a guy named Clean could also be this kind of assassin for hire or something like that. But we don't have that really be like the heavy selling point of this movie because we don't really have that being much of any part of this film until really very late into this 90-minute movie. So really this is a very flat film where I can't exactly tell you like when this movie really picks up. Like I don't really think it picks up until it almost ends. Then there is to be some action sequences. Then there is to be like this movie kind of feels very much like Robert De Niro's Taxi Driver for some people that have ever heard of that film. Um, Really, I could say that I would like to say that this feels like the Ryan Gosling movie Drive, but like I think that like even the Ryan Gosling movie Drive like has some like upbeats and but it's still kind of like a flat movie, but there's still like some upbeats that kind of get you really interested in the film, where this movie overall is just like one flat film, uh, but has an interesting kind of ending. So for this film, you can have early access, or you can go and access some apps that I will go on and tell you right now. I would go on and tell people that at the end of the day, you could go onto a Google search and search an app called Letter C Movies. And once you download this app, I've been using it for months. You can go out of your way to see you can see a number of things, new releases, certain shows that are exclusive on certain apps that aren't Amazon and whatever. Like, say you want to see anything of HBO Max, you can dare in fact watch an app that is to have pretty much anything. You can also go and Google search an app called Fox HD Movies. The logo will say so, the title will say something different. It will say like play 1080p HD movies, and if you go and download both of those apps, you'll pretty much be able to see everything at that point. New releases, old stuff. There's sometimes where it's a very rare like thing where this app just doesn't have some movie or something between the two of those apps that I've just mentioned that something doesn't exist. Sometimes it's probably just because it's brand new, or there's sometimes where eventually it will get onto that app at some point. But if you're just really wanting to just want to see something right a freaking way, then you just need to be patient. You can also go onto a Google Play Store and download an app called TV Crush. I've been using that again for a very long stretch of time. That app is to kind of have like every other kind of thing you could say that you've seen. There's sometimes where there's some interesting TV shows on there that doesn't that aren't shown on two other apps that I've gone on and reliably used. So yeah, every once in a while you'll find a random thing on that app that you wouldn't be able to find somewhere else. So with that said, teeing it up, what is this movie actually about? So, like I said, it has this kind of taxi driver kind of feel to it, the Robert De Niro film, where we of course have Clean, who is to be this uh, garbage man. He goes through, and of course, he is to seemingly be going on and refurbishing some older items to give to a guy who, of course, is to be a pawn shop Curtis. That is his name, I guess. Pawn shop Curtis. So a guy who works at a pawn shop or owns a pawn shop, and his name is Curtis. So we also have it where it seems that Clean is to go on and consistently take care of a girl named Dianda, Dianda. Dianda? I don't know, I don't remember how exactly it's pronounced in this movie. The one thing that I can honestly complain about this film is I feel like this film is also far too quiet. Really, if I were to go on and try to watch this movie and have some background noise going on, I wouldn't be able to clearly hear this film. Because the apps of which that I went on to watch it, I was like, man, like I really need to bump up the volume all the way up to be able to hear this film. It feels like a very quiet film, and we also have Adrian Brody who's like narrating through most of it. And so we go on and we have him talk like this, like he's freaking Batman throughout the whole thing. Because we have Clean, who has like a very, like, in the actual film, like he has a very small amount of lines. And any of the stuff that he is to actually narrate, I'm like, why should I bother hearing any of this? It doesn't really feel like it helps me understand this character more. It just helps me want to just go like, man, I can't wait for this narration to end. Because he goes on and it feels like this narration is kind of like the taxi driver narration where it's like, yeah, the city needs to be cleaned, and because we go on, we have like Clean who's watching as like guys are a bunch of guys are beating up one guy, and like he wants to kind of step in and do something for his city, and eventually he is kind of forced into that, and so that creates for a very interesting story where Clean is to step in and try to do the right thing, but it takes him forever to do so. So, and it seems that this guy is a expert with a wrench. So this is to feel like the Rainn Wilson movie Super at some point. But then we go on and we have it to where it's like, oh, okay, so he's going to do something more than just being wrench guy. And then we start to see this guy to be more skilled, and it almost feels somewhat close to a very low budget John Wick film. Once we get towards the end here, where we find out that this guy is to have like this backstory about him, which we end up finding out that he is to be some kind of boogeyman, or in this movie they would call him a Grim Reaper, whatever that means. I don't know what that exactly means. But anyways, that's all that I want to go and talk about this in almost a spoiler team up like sense. If anything, this movie also kind of reminds me a little bit of the Brad Pitt film Killing Them Softly, but really that is like very that is very flimsy. Like just saying, but it has like the way of which that they go about this, like promotional wise, looks like Killing Them Softly. If you go and you look at the Killing Them Softly, of course, visuals for that movie, and then you go for the visuals of this one, it looks the same. So it just looks like they're having guys with just shotguns in the frame, and that's all they're really doing. So with that said, I think it's about that time. Just go into that double five. Let's just go into spoilers about this one. So let's go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time we're gonna do spoil this movie. So we go on in the very beginning of this movie, and we have it set up that Clean is to be this garbage man, and he is to go on to this junkyard, and he's giving this dog food to this, excuse me, to this dog. And so we have this narration start out of this film. I'm like, okay, I guess this is kind of showing us like how slow this movie is gonna be. It just is slow. It's just so slow. Um, but anyways, so like, I guess I never went into the grading thing of this movie. I feel like this movie is to just be like an okay film. Like I would have to have gone on and judged like how would I feel about like Death Sentence and have to just give a little bit lower rating to that Kevin Bacon movie Death Sentence. So if Death Sentence was like a great film that I really enjoyed, I would just have to have a lower grading than that. Like so I feel like Clean is just I can't say it's a like I want to say that it's like almost an okay film. It's almost an okay film. It's just so slow. Like there's nothing like this movie. Like I would have to go into calling this now interesting because in between bad and okay has to be just interesting. Where this movie's interesting, but it's like I'm like, man, when is this movie ever gonna pick up? I'm kind of clicking on when exactly this movie is picking up, and like I feel like it never really gets there until the very ending, because we have it to where it seems that this character is to have kind of like this like Punisher Netflix approach to it, and it kind of feels like that. So, but let's go further into the film. So we have Clean narrating stuff, talking about him and his dad, and like talking about who he is, and so on and so forth. So Clean goes on and is to bring to Curtis this Electrolux vacuum, and it seems that Curtis is to go on and notice this vacuum. So we have it where Curtis is not really wanting to test this vacuum because he trusts that Clean is to give him something substantial here. And so he's willing to give him $45 for this vacuum. Because it seems like this guy is to go and restore things. That seems to be what his thing that he likes to do is. To the point of him going off at some point in this movie and buying just cans of paint he finds at this one store, and is to go and take this paint and restore abandoned houses to make them look better. And nobody is telling him to do that. He's not getting paid for that project. He just does it because it's the right thing to do. Going on and getting rid of all of the graffiti and just restoring those homes. Because I guess this guy is technically made of money and at some point anyways, because he just does this garbage job that I guess does pay substantially, but anyways. So we go on, and I'm not going to be able to perfectly review this whole film. More than likely I'm going to have to get to the bullet points or the most interesting things about this film. And so I don't know how long that's going to take compared to whatever, but I think it's going to be really quick to just go through this film. So we have at one point where Clean is going on and seeing, of course, Daida, and consistently giving her food. It's either, I think it's like fish, or it's like chicken, or something like that. And so we consistently have this guy giving them the same food over and over and over again to where this girl can know exactly what it is. So, to where we eventually have Ethel, that is Diana's mother, who is going on and telling, of course, Clean, it's like, hey, like, you're not her father, you know. And Clean's like, yeah, I get that, but I want to do something good. To where Ethel is like, well, yeah, it does seem like you are a good guy by going on and, like, cleaning up those abandoned homes. And Clean is just like, I'm not a good guy. So, because we of course have these flashbacks when Clean is going to sleep at night. He's having these nightmares where he wakes up in tears at 4 in the morning or something like that, in the middle of the night somewhere. We have Clean who keeps having these dreams about, I'm assuming, his daughter that he must have lost at some point. This very young daughter that we don't really know if this is like, okay, like, so is this girl just dead? Did he just lose her forever because maybe his drug addiction had lost his child? There seems to be a lot about this movie that doesn't seem all really fleshed out. Um, like, I feel like every bit of this isn't exactly 100% told to us in the story, but we're just supposed to enjoy the adventure? Sure. So, every single night we have, of course, Clean, who's going on and consistently seeing this photo of this child. And so, Clean also goes to get Clean by going to these meetings, going and speaking, of course, to a guy named Travis, and just going and to this kind of meeting, this group meeting, and just kind of sharing. And so we have some guys that are going on and at some points mentioning their problems, like stating how like uh, they just wake up in the middle of the night all the time, just kind of like uh, having nightmares about anything that they were to do in their past to try to get money for whatever drugs that they needed to do. So we go on and have Michael go and do this garbage job, and so we have at one point where we have a guy named Michael who is to technically be the villain of this story, where if you want to go and put like a comparison to somebody, he's kind of like the villain, the kingpin, the whatever of this story. Because Michael is to be this guy who, of course, is to have this fish establishment, which I'm kind of curious, like, or I was kind of like, okay, does he just cook this fish? And that's usually what he does as his means to get by. But we also find out that Michael not only cooks fish, but we go on and we find out that he also is cooking something else up. He's cooking up drugs, probably cocaine. So we go on and have Michael, who is getting all of this fish delivered with drugs in them. And so we have Michael and we have Mikey coming in here. And we, of course, have Michael telling Mikey that it seems that they have come up short in the shipment. And really, they don't put up with, like, being light on anything. So we go on, and when Michael is to go on and get this other shipment, we then go on and have Michael, who is to, after he's to make it out of church and see the shipment, he is to go and take one of the guys that's delivering this stuff and just beats the out of him to a bloody pulp, and this guy is dead. Right after, he is to go on and cut one of these fish and say that at one point these fish were to have really bad smells when you would cut into them at a certain point. But eventually Michael would just have to get used to the smell. And so, and then after that, he bashes in to one of these guys and murders them. So we, of course, have Michael that is really just consistently, like, kind of telling his son what to do to the point where at some dinner when we have Mikey who is spending so much time with the assortment of guys, and Mikey thinks that his don't stink because he's with this other group, and so Michael is like, well, hey, like you think you have everything going well with you being with these guys, but you'd be wrong, and so kind of cementing that Michael is still uh, the real kingpin here, the real big guy, so to speak. And so Mikey, after just kind of listening to his dad and just kind of walking off, we of course have Michael that's like, "Hey, look in the mirror." Sure, okay, whatever. So, how does this all relate to Clean? Well, we go on, we have Clean, who is, of course, going on and making it to Michael's, of course, establishment, going and cleaning out his garbage. And we, of course, have Michael who appears right behind Clean and is saying, like, hey, like, I'm sorry for the smell. It's like, if anything, here's a couple $100 to, uh, like, just to kind of shut your mouth, kind of thing. Like, Michael doesn't actually say that, but we have it to where Michael is wanting to give Clean this payment, and Clean is like, oh no, like, I'm not going to take any of your money. I've gone through this before. Like, it's okay. So we merely have like Michael just kind of like ruffle his feathers are all ruffled about Clean. How it's just like, he didn't take the money from me. Like, I can't just shut this guy up. Like, this guy seemed to be like very suspicious. So we turn around and we have it to where Michael is trying to do right by Dieta, and so he ends up going and giving her a bike. He is to go and be able to get uh, a piece of a bike, and so Clean goes on and is to find a bunch of parts to be able to put together a really nice bike to give to Dieta. And so we, of course, that's when Ethel is telling Clean, it's like, well, hey, like, she's not your daughter. And Clean is just like, well, hey, I'm just trying to do something nice. So we go on and we have Dieta, who is to later on in this movie be riding this bike, and she's riding it to be with these guys who are to be possibly labeled as thugs. So we, of course, go on and have Clean, who is telling, of course, Dieta to just go home. That she doesn't like, or he doesn't like that she's with these men, because he knows good and well what they will probably do to her. And so, well, we have this girl that just keeps hanging with these men anyways. So it gets to the point in this movie where finally Clean wants to finally step up and start cleaning up this town. To the point of all of a sudden we have Clean who goes into this abandoned house to find this old wrench there. And so Clean goes on and is to take this wrench. And so he ends up going into this alley where we have a bunch of guys who are all beating up one guy. And Clean goes in there and is to accidentally get his head, like maybe his skull broken, or maybe he just needs stitches. So we go on and we have Clean, who is to go to the hospital and get MRI'd and get stitches. And so we have this doctor that goes on and tells Clean, it's like, well, you'll probably get nausea for a while and so on and so forth. And like, hey man, you're lucky that you're still walking at all of the injuries that you've probably suffered over time. So we go on, we have Clean, who is to push on to eventually realize that his job won't let him work because it's a like it's an insurance kind of thing where they can't be sure that Clean will eventually like succumb to any head injury. Like it's basically if someone was to be knocked unconscious, they're not sure. They're like garbage trucks are really expensive. They don't want anybody to get into a car wreck because they pass out or uh, they're really not up to snuff as far as health. So yeah, they don't want to take the risk. So as far as a head injury goes, I can completely understand a company just going like, yeah, we're not going to let you go into the ring until we feel, or we're not going to let you go back into this job until we think that you are absolutely safe. Hence why you go and you have like concussion tests that, of course, are to be done with uh, pro athletes and stuff like that, and they have them take days off to kind of heal and whatever because it's protocol. So we go on and have Clean, who's going to his kind of meeting guy Travis, while he's also getting his hair cut at some point in this film by Travis. And so Clean's like, yeah, I don't know what I can do. They're not letting me work. And so Travis is just like, well, just like go on a walk, like just go on a drive, just kind of keep yourself busy until you can go on and um, until you can start working again. Because I think we have Clean that really needs a routine, and possibly when that routine is taken from him, we start to have like Clean who's starting to get a itchy trigger finger, so to speak. So we go on and we have Clean, who of course is to consistently be looking over Dieta, and he finds out that of course she is to still hang out with these guys that Clean warned her about before. So she's going into this place, and so Clean is to decide that he's like, you know what, I'm not going to let her just uh, kind of go down this path. I'm not going to force her, or I'm not going to let her just go on and just end up a strung out druggie or be used by these men, because that's what they'll do. So Clean decides to take it upon himself with this wrench to go into this place that these guys are at, these thugs, and he starts to go through with this wrench and start beating the crap out of them. As one guy is to say, it's like, well, hey, like, I'm sorry, guy, this place is closed. And Clean is like, well, I'm going to open you up. And then he just starts beating the out of him with this wrench. And he starts cleaning a house with all these guys. And right at the time, we have Dieta, who all of a sudden, like, we're having these guys forced upon her because she's getting more and more, like they're getting her drugged up, they're getting her drunk, I'm sure. They're like trying to do anything to eventually get this girl to either black out or eventually be able to use her however they want, and that's a horrible thing. So we have Clean, who is going through and cleaning house, beating the out of all these guys, most of them to absolute death. And one of the men in this building was actually Mikey, because I guess he had the like McDonald's necklace or whatever, symbolizing that this guy is Mikey. And Clint is like, oh, like knowing good and well, Clean is to realize who Michael is and how Michael wants, or Clean wants nothing to do with Michael whatsoever, to the point of him like feeling that Michael owes him anything or whatever. So or vice versa, like that that Clean is to owe Michael anything from some kind of payout or some kind of something that he was to get in the past, or even something as simple as a cigarette. Michael is like, nope, I quit. Even though eventually we see him later in this film puffing up a cigarette. So, Clean is to save this girl, and immediately we have it to where Clean is thinking that Diana and Ethel are to have to leave town because he's like, yeah, like I think I know exactly how this is gonna work. So Clean doesn't have the best wheels, and so what happens is that Michael is to find out that Mikey was beaten up so badly that this doctor is saying like, well, hey, we can go and give him like facial reconstruction, and Michael's like, no, I want him to keep this face to have him remember like that this happened to him. Really having it to where Michael wouldn't do that anyways. Like I knew that Michael would go on and just be like, no, like he's gonna have to learn because he is just that kind of dad. So we go and we have Michael, who is to have a detective named Frank, who is kind of looking into Clean, because it seems that they were to have this phone video that was recording everything, because I guess they were going to try and do that with Dieta to get this video saved or whatever, but it ended up being that Clean cleaned this place up before they could go on and do that video. So we now go on and have it to where they're trying to figure out where Clean is. And so when Clean gets pulled over by these police while he's trying to get basically Dieta and Ethel out of town, we have it to where Clean is noticing that this police officer isn't trying to call things in, that he's just going on and using his specific cell phone for this guy to call a specific person. So he's like, oh no, like this guy is one of them. So we have Clean going and running off to hide behind this one barn or something to where this police officer is to drive on by. So Clean is mentioning that he needs a different car because this car just isn't good enough. So Clean is to make it to some bowling alley slash... let's go with bowling alley. That seems good enough. So Clean is mentioning that he wants to go and get some other car, and he'll eventually be parked outside while Ethel is to go to the bathroom. So we, of course, have Michael telling Frank that he wants whoever is going to go after Clean to kill the two girls first and then go after him. So we have these guys who are, of course, to find Clean's vehicle at this bowling alley. And so they go into this place all bandanaed and axed up. So they're making it through this establishment without anybody going on and just be like, hey, like, what's up with these guys? Maybe we should call the cops. That never, I guess, crosses anybody's mind. So we, of course, had Diana and Ethel that realize that these guys mean business, and so they're wanting to run into the back part of this bowling alley. And so we go on and we have Clean, who is to realize what's going on, as he is to see one guy outside that looks kind of peculiar. So Clean goes and shoves a screwdriver into this guy's neck, killing him off and then taking this axe. So Clean goes in after these men and is to just start to chop them up with his axe, because we end up finding out that this guy is a John Wick. He's a Grim Reaper. He's a boogeyman. You better be afraid of him. You want to mess with this guy. because this guy will kill people, numerous people, and now we find that out within this bowling alley. So, that he's murdered all these people. So now we go on and we have it where Clean just makes his way back into town because it feels like there's nowhere to go. That really anywhere he is gonna go, they're gonna go and find him. So what he goes on and does, and he's like, well, instead of having like them go off and try to send somebody, like I'll just go after them, and so that way this will stop. Seems an easy enough conclusion. So we go on and we have Clean, who is making his way to Curtis, and is, instead of going on and giving him something to sell, he's buying this time around, because we have, of course, Clean, who is to have this this trunk that is to have this like dog doll, and it looks empty, but then when you pull this part of this trunk, you find that there's a bunch of money, and there's a shotgun in there, or no, it's a wrench in there. We have now Clean that's wanting to go and buy some things off of Curtis. And so Curtis is going on and saying like, "Hey, what do you need? Like, uh, is it for home safety?" And he's like, "No, it's hunting season." And Curtis is like, "Well, hunting season's over." It's like, I'm not quite sure yet. So we go on, and we of course have Clean that is to go and get this shotgun, and he is to heavily modify it with this like silencer, and like he cuts like the barrel of the shotgun, and like this is like, man, this is some lavish like modifications that this guy's doing on this shotgun. Um, and it looks really cool at the end of all of it, how he's like really changing and shifting up this shotgun. And so we also have it to where, of course, Clean is buying this flare gun. I'm like, what is he going to use the flare gun for? But I guess really he's trying to buy any weapon that would not be a loud weapon, or that he can modify it to have a silencer on it. So again, no one is to really hear him coming. You'll never see him coming or hear him in this movie. So, because I thought the flare gun was like a weird choice, but then when really looking at it, like, wait, like, okay, it is kind of cool in this movie. It does make a lot of sense. All right, you got me. So, but we also had it to where Clean was trying to sell Curtis something again, and I guess it was some boombox that I guess wasn't all that fixed, and Curtis was to realize that, but like, hey man, you still got some work to do. And Clean is like, crap. So we go on, and we have it where, of course, we have Clean that is basically calling Michael, and he's telling him, it's like, hey, like, get ready for me, basically. Like, yeah, you better be ready, because I'm coming for you, because I not only have got your phone number, but I also know where you live. So now Clean is going on and going into work, supposedly. And what he does is to go on and get a garbage truck, and is to take this garbage truck and is to ram it into Michael's home. And after we, of course, are having these characters caught off guard, we go on, and we also have it where Michael is to turn off the power of this building. So we now have Michael, who, like, nobody can really see what's going on. They're just kind of shouting at people, and so Michael Clean can easily hear where all these people are, because they're continuing to shout like morons. And so he just starts shooting through people. Clean starts killing a lot of these guys and is to put a flare gun in the head detective's mouth and murder him that way and kill him that way. So we push on and we eventually have it where uh, Clean is to be told by Michael's wife where supposedly Michael is. So Clean is to go into this one room to find out that it seems that Michael had prepared some kind of something for Clean, and so Clean dodges under this pool table while Michael is firing off this weapon. So we get to a point here where it goes on to have both Michael and Clean fighting it out. They're kind of fighting hand to hand, and we just see where Michael is kind of outpowering Clean because he's a bigger guy. Uh, but we have Clean getting some pretty good shots in also. But it seems at some point we have Michael who is to start like punching Clean so badly that he's starting to see his young girl again. And I didn't cover much of the flashbacky stuff because I don't feel like it's really all that important. All the stuff where Clean is to see his girl and his little girl, because it like they never like it doesn't really feel like they really clarify anything in this film. Um, Past little bits of things when they decided whatever they want to clarify is whatever they want to clarify. And we also had it to where Frank was before this thing was to all pop off. He was to get the call saying that Clean is actually a Grim Reaper as we go on and see frickin' Clean's like back tattoo that is to be this like skeleton. I'm like, oh my god. Frickin' John Wicking it up, okay? Alright, that's cool. Like scaring people. Like, ooh, yeah, look at this guy. Like, he's a real badass. But yeah, so we have Mikey that comes into the room and is shooting his own dad. And he goes on and also is to shoot Clean in the shoulder. And so really we just stop with that. We don't show any more than that. We don't show if like Clean got it out of there. We don't show anything else past that. We just go on and really at the end of all this just have like a an ending where we have Dieta and we have like Ethel and they're going on and like getting this money and like really that's the big ending that has nothing to really do with Clean. Um, so yeah. Uh, or we have Dieta that's just kind of just biking through this town, and that's all we really see of the ending of this film. We go and we have Dieta who's like, oh hey yeah hi hey I'm going through the town just biking and whatever, and that's all that we really see for the end of this film. Where it seems like this community is better now that all that these thugs have now been gone. That it seems to be a much more happier place where you have Diana that can just go through this town and just bike her way through. So yeah, that's really just the end of this film, and I think I'm just gonna get out of here. Because at the end of the day, is there anything left for me to go on and talk about here? Not really. We had the one tattooed guy in the one group that was going on and telling Clean, it's like, hey, you're that guy with that wrench, right? And Clean is like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, you got the wrong guy. As of course we go on and realize, yeah, he is that guy. He is that wrench guy. Like it seems like this guy is to be so mysterious and so spooky that we don't really know. Like it doesn't seem like we know to the very end that this guy is to be this possible hitman. We're to naturally assume. So, with that said, oh, we had the one moment where we had the paint shop girl that was Hartley, and once, of course, Clean was getting this paint to go and buy or to go and paint these abandoned homes. We have, of course, where of course Clean is eating this donut, and she's going out like, "Hey, like, where's my donut?" And he's like, "Sorry, maybe the next time I see you, I'll get you one." I thought that was kind of funny. Um, Other than that, there probably is a lot of other things that I can go out of my way to say about this film because I probably forgot about a number of things here because I didn't do this movie in perfect order. Because I like really is just like, well, whichever I just want to cover is whatever I want to cover. Um, but yeah, so with that said, I think that's all that I want to say about this film. Uh, Very brief review compared to what I usually do is like an hour or 2 hours or whatever. But like this one is just kind of like just go with the bullet points, just go with the greatest hits or whatever you can remember for this one. Because this one is just that slow pace of a film. Um, so this one was kind of all over the place, but it is what it is. So yeah, I think that's all that I wanted to say about this film. I think I'm going to get out of here. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.